Out of nowhere, it was like an invasion. 2008, May. I was 10 years old then, and I still barely used the internet for anything outside what school asked me to use it for, and for going on Pokemon.com, a bit of Bulbapedia due to Mystery Dungeon 2, and Nintendo.com on rare basis. So thus, I never got to see any sort of video game news sites like IGN, GameSpot, Go Nintendo, etc. outside maybe wandering into a game store and seeing what was posted on the walls in those stores. But in early 2008, I did hear rumblings of a new Pokemon title that was slated to hit the Wii Shop Channel. That would allow you to import Pokemon captured in Diamond and Pearl, something that my younger self somehow thought would let me import a Pokemon I regret migrating from XD back to the GBA. But I wasn't really sure what would come on the Wii Shop Channel every week, since outside Nintendo.com it was just random and Wikipedia would just offer lists of upcoming virtual console games based off ESRB ratings, though most of the time they never seemed to come out or they took ages to actually come out. But that would pretty much be it. This was before the days of Nintendo Directs and all those transparent communications they actually started to do, because back in those days, information almost never got out. But it was the spring season after I grew a distrust towards all third parties after my horrible experience with a game I got for the previous Christmas, known as Nicktoons Attack of the Toybots, which, for some dumb reason, led me to stay far away from any titles that didn't have Nintendo's logo on them or weren't recognizable to my already younger self. But that all changed on May 12, 2008, as when I came home from school, I saw to my shock and horror that the Wii Shop Channel was completely revamped. I did take advantage and download the handy Nintendo channel that previous weekend, but I wasn't expecting to see the whole rest of the lineup that week just look downright horrible. I found a few titles to get excited about from the original trailer because they were made by Nintendo, but I was confused at the whole point of this new WiiWare league. Why were there so many companies I've never heard of? What were these games doing? Like, they say they were smaller games, so where's the Mario and Zelda adventures? That's what I thought. And thus, little did I know, the dark age of the Wii Shop Channel began. Hello everyone, it's me, Connor from Seafoam Gaming here, and I'm here to discuss the beginning of the WiiWare service. As hinted in the intro, I don't like WiiWare at all. In fact, one of my biggest memories of WiiWare was how it basically ruined the Wii Shop Channel for me for the rest of the life cycle. Why? Well, to give some context, the year before, I think in October of 2007, in Japan or so, they announced that they want to do some like the Xbox Live and PlayStation Network stores where small developers or big developers can publish their own small games that don't need to be on retail on the Wii Shop Channel, like the Virtual Console, because the Virtual Console is doing well, so why not add new games instead of old games? And on paper, that sounded like a great idea. At the time though, cause I was still getting used to being with my grandma and whatnot, even then the only news sites I looked at were Nintendo and Pokemon.com, and they didn't mention it much, and I didn't really know it was a thing except until March of that year, 2008, when I heard My Pokemon Ranch would be a WiiWare game. There was a game where you could store the Pokemon. And I was actually very excited because I remember being upset at the time that I accidentally transferred an Arbok from XD to my Diamond and Pearl, which I think is stupid looking back because you can't transfer it back and I didn't have Leaf Green, so I couldn't catch another one. Or was it Fire Red? Either way, I died, couldn't catch another one for some reason, and I got really personal about it, and it was dumb. I don't know why I thought Arbok was a big deal. It was just an XD Pokemon. I think it's because it was one of a kind, unlike some of the Pokefood Pokemon that you could get in that game. But yeah, overall, WiiWare's... I didn't know it was part of WiiWare. I just knew a new Pokemon game was coming to the Wii Shop Channel. And so I thought, okay, I'll be excited for when it comes to States, because Bulbapedia said it would come to the States sometime this year, and I was looking at it now because that's when Mystery Dungeon 2 was coming out, and I was into that game, so that's why I learned what Bulbapedia was. But even then, I didn't know everything about what Nintendo as a whole were doing, and so WiiWare came like a complete surprise. May 12th, a normal Monday, a weekend after the Nintendo channel launch, which was something I did actually really enjoy, and I'm going to discuss that a bit, but the shop channel as a whole completely changed when WiiWare came in. They always had channels where you could get internet channels and whatnot, but they then decided to put colorful games on the shop channel that were new. And I thought this would mean lots of old new Nintendo games like Zelda, Mario, the only stuff I cared about at the time because, well, I got screwed over by a game the year before. But in general, I thought WiiWare was sounding good. I should maybe get new games. New games should be as good as old games. They make new Mario and Zeldas. But they didn't. They made Dr. Mario Online RX, which was made by Akira, a company that's kind of crappy and makes pretty bad games. And by bad games, I mean bad Dr. Mario games, because their other games are kind of actually good. They made an amazing Tetris game called Grandmaster Tetris, but we just got Dr. Mario from them. And the 3D classics, which were ear-bleeding, to say the least. But needless to say, that was the only game I had any care for on WiiWare next to my Pokemon Ranch at launch, and none of them came out at launch. They did in Japan, but we had to wait. So yeah, the WiiWare launch lineup was pretty shitty. There was nothing of interest. No-name developers pumping out garbage that day, except for Squaresoft, who made the Final Fantasy game, but it's not a real Final Fantasy, it's this tower defense game. A few years later, I tried the demo of it and hated it so much because it wasn't Final Fantasy, it was a crappy tower defense that bored me to death. My Life as a King, I think it was called. But yeah. That being said, it's not like WiiWare was fully bad. There were some good games that came later on in the life cycle. Mega Man 9 and 10 were the ones people mostly point out when they talk about how good WiiWare was, but they are on other systems. And now they're on physical discs with the Legacy Collection too, so yeah, the WiiWare versions are kind of redundant. They were redundant even back then. I think Mega Man 9 or 10 came out early on the Wii compared to other systems. I know 9 did, but outside that, it's just Mega Man 9 on the Wii. Nothing special about it. And Mega Man 9 is not that good of a game in my opinion. I like 10 a lot more. But yeah, the WiiWare was pretty bad, all things considered. So now let's talk about the Nintendo channel. So as I said before, the weekend before the WiiWare launched, Nintendo announced and launched a new Wii channel. And those channels were things I actually liked on the original Wii. Check Me Out was a good one because you could get Miis of popular cartoon characters just from the internet. And this was before I even knew any online friends what to speak of, so yeah, it was a free garden of Miis I could download, and I still have some of them today, mostly Charlie Brown Miis, because a lot of those flooded the service back in the day for some reason. And there was other channels like Everyone Votes channel, which was a good channel because you could just... it was a voting channel. And that sounds boring as heck for a 10-year-old, but I actually really liked it. The questions they asked were kind of intriguing. I don't remember what they were, but I think one of them was, do you like sleeping on the side or the back? And today, that's very relevant to me because I often alternate and I don't know which one's better. But yeah, they asked simple questions like those, and it was just a fun, free channel, and since it was free, hey, it gave me something to do every week, whenever I felt like it at least. So the Nintendo channel joined that lineup. I think it came before the two channels in question, but I don't remember my Wii schedule, the Wii channel schedule. I just know the Nintendo channel came out in May of that year, because I really didn't pay attention to the timing of the other channels. I just downloaded them when I felt like it, and sometimes it was at launch, sometimes it was later. So the Nintendo channel launched with a lot of trailers, because it was basically a glorified Nintendo YouTube channel, where they just showed you all the trailers of upcoming games, and they'd also have demos for you to download on the Nintendo DS. These demos were pretty crappy because they were third-party games, and back then I thought all third-party games sucked. But at least I could demo some of them for myself. I demoed Sonic Colors when that came out a few years later. Did not like that was Sonic Rush 3 because I hated that first one. And I also demoed some fun Nintendo games like... I think Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorer Sky had a demo on it, but I'm not sure. I think it's a demo that they send out when you lose the menu, because you can send out a demo to a friend's DS in that game. That gives you Sunflower and a grass dungeon. I think they had that before launch or at launch, so it gave me a good reason to look forward to that version of the game. Opinions on it notwithstanding. And they also had a very fun demo for Picross 3D. That was an amazing game. It was my first Picross game. I did not know it was Picross back then. I just thought it was a generic puzzle game that they made up. Did not know it was a long running Nonogram series, but that was my first exposure to Picross, the Nintendo Channel's demo of Picross 3D. It was fun, I wanted it, but at the time it was kind of expensive, I think $30–40, before it dropped to like the single digits for used markets, and now it's on the Wii U Virtual Console. But yeah, Picross 3D was a great game I remember demoing with the Nintendo Channel, and I think Pokemon Ranger Guardian Science had a demo on it, but I don't remember. All I know is that the Sonic Colors demo was the one that stood out to me as one I did not like, and the Crosswords demo and a Picross demo were things I tried out as well and actually liked. But yeah, the Nintendo Channel was an interesting piece of Nintendo history because on the Wii, you could go to YouTube with the Internet Channel, but it was 500 Wii points until 2009, and I bought it for that much. But they did give you a free NES game if you bought it like I did. I think I chose a crappy game, and I don't want to think about it. But needless to say, if you didn't have the Internet Channel, you could go to the Nintendo Channel and just get all the Nintendo news straight to you. And for me, since I did not even care about the internet that much until 2009, it was a great way to see new announcements and new trailers for new games I've never heard of, without going to Nintendo's website and seeing them there. So yeah, that's how I got most of my Wii news back in the day, at least the Wii news that came to trailers. I remember seeing trailers for lots of WiiWare games I didn't care for, like Lost Winds, a launch title people do like nowadays, and I think it does look kind of interesting. Back then, I remember being very pissed off that, like, there was no Mario and Zelda games in the WiiWare that launched. There was a Dr. Mario, like, release date of 5/12 in this trailer, but it's not coming out on May. Why is it not out now? I want to play Mario, not this crappy indie shit. Well, I didn't know what indies were, but yeah, all these random no-name developers bugged the crap out of me as a kid. And I don't blame them, because when WiiWare took off, it became a cesspool of really bad games. Any reviewer on YouTube who basically does not like the Wii or says it's filled with shovelware outside the bargain bin crap for like kids and pet games and girl games and all that crap, they're probably talking about WiiWare, because in my opinion, WiiWare was worse than the Wii's retail library. At the retail library, at least you could find good games there, and they were at different prices, they didn't have any sort of file size limitations. It was a good service. Well, service in terms of, you know, retail marketing. Even though lots of good third-party gems like Chrono I missed out on because of my stubbornness, there was still lots of good options, and the Virtual Console had lots of good options too. Even if I disregard my stupid pettiness towards third parties back in the day, games like Super C, Mega Man, Castlevania, Eastbook 1 and 2, Xanac, and lots of other gems in the Wii Shop Channel I would have loved back then if I wasn't so stubborn. But the WiiWare? There's not many games in the WiiWare I would love today, and I know this because right before the Wii Shop closed down, I bought a lot of old WiiWare games. So let's take a look at some of them. Adventure Island: The Beginning. This is a pretty boring remake/sequel to the old Adventure Island games on the NES and TurboGrafx, and it's boring. That's literally it. I didn't want to get past a few levels because the art style was ugly, I knew that going in, but the game's just so boring and generic, it might as well be a generic fan game that's made in 3D. So yeah, Hudson Soft didn't do a good job on this one. Next, Mr. Driller W. I liked Mr. Driller 2 on the Wii U Virtual Console, so I wanted to get a real Mr. Driller game that wasn't just a Game Boy Advance port, and this didn't disappoint. It's a fun score attack game, but there's not much to do with the Wii's online leaderboards taken down. And yeah, that's a common trend that is gonna be a problem for any old WiiWare game. The online leaderboards have been dead since 2014. But at least this game's decent fun that it's not too much of a hassle to go and enjoy if you already have it. Speaking of if you already have it, Arkanoid Plus on the WiiWare. It's Arkanoid, a brick-breaking game I love a lot, and there's DLC to get a second level in the game, which is kind of dumb. But hey, you get 2 worlds of Arkanoid fun, and it's not that expensive. I'd say go buy it, but you can't buy it. So yeah, those are a few of the new WiiWare games I looked up in a few months ago. And yeah, nothing special. They're just old, new versions of old games. And that's the general trend of the good WiiWare games. If they were good WiiWare games, it's because they were old, new takes on an old concept. In fact, the best person to do this was M2 with the Konami Rebirth series. A series of fantastic remakes and, well, reimaginings of 3 Konami games. And they are the one WiiWare title, or I guess 3 in this case, that I think must be ported to other systems. They're must-haves. I hope Konami somehow ports them to Switch or something, or PC. And yeah, they are the best, and in the case of Gradius and Castlevania, the last of their main franchises to have a game. I think Contra Rebirth was the last game of that franchise until the mobile port of Contra 1, but outside that, the Rebirth series really did rebirth those old games, and the Rebirth series is really good because of it. So let's get back to the Nintendo channel before I go into what was my very first indie game, because believe it or not, I had, in my opinion, to buy something on WiiWare's launch day, because there was no Mario and Zelda games, and I didn't recognize any of the third parties. My time was wasted waiting for the new Wii Shop Channel update, so I just downloaded whatever game was appealing to me. And I'm going to tell you what that game was after we discuss one last thing about the Nintendo channel that people are probably wanting me to talk about and shut up about everything else. Nintendo Week. This was a web series that was done weekly where 2 hosts, Gary and Addison, would talk about the newest Nintendo games and They didn't really do much, they just talked about newest Nintendo games and some third-party games, but it was just mostly dumb skits and humor that didn't really click for me back then and even now. It was just really weird and not funny at all, and I think the only time I laughed was one episode where they basically poked fun at the evil counterpart of one of the hosts, Dark Gary, who's just Gary in a different outfit. It's really stupid. It's kind of akin to my cool dude disguise I put on for the NX parody video I made, and it's kind of really hilarious whenever he shows up because it's just them bickering, and it's just very obvious that the editing was so bad, but it's also so cheesy that you can't help but love it. So yeah, I did get some nostalgia from watching it, but I didn't really watch many episodes. I think I only watched 3, and then I watched the final episode that aired when the 3DS was active, because they still had it going in 2012, and then they ended it for obvious reasons, because the Wii was dying and the 3DS was new, but they replaced it with a good show I still remember called Nintendo Show 3D on the 3DS. And when I get to my eShop retrospective, whatever that is, I'm gonna definitely talk about that series. I may even make an unscripted memories on that, because this is mostly an unscripted memories to begin with all this unscripted bits. So I think I'm going to focus on Nintendo Show 3D at another time. But needless to say, the tradition carries on today with Nintendo Minute, a web series where Kit and Krista from Nintendo do the same thing Gary and Addison do, but without forced humor, which makes it more honest, even though you can tell sometimes they kind of have to push it a bit to push low quality games, like when Amiibo Festival and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash were pushed back in 2015. Yeah, that wasn't the best of times, was it, to being a Wii U fan? But I digress. But with all that out of the way, it's time to discuss the aforementioned game I did resort to buying on WiiWare launch day because I was desperate to play something new. With no Nintendo games out of the gate for launch, and me freshly being bitter towards third parties due to the aforementioned game I mentioned, I went based off purely the names and the Wii Shop screenshots alone, usually how I judge Nintendo games when I bought those. So my first ever indie game that I ever bought in my life on that very day was none other than Pop. Yes, the name is Pop. That's the name of the game. It's as simple as it sounds too, since the main objective of Pop is to drag bubbles around, have them blow up, keep chain reactions going, while also making sure the timer does not hit 0. Do that, reach the highest score, and you join the online leaderboards, which don't even exist anymore. And yeah, I somehow can't even beat my highest score from a decade ago, which is a bit embarrassing. But that's all this game had to outside of a multiplayer mode. Just survive waves of bubbles until you die. And guess what? WiiWare launch day happened to be the only time I actually even played this game until I streamed it a few months ago on the Seafoam Gaming Twitch channel. I was so desperate for content on my Wii to see what this whole WiiWare thing was about that I wasted $10 of my grandma's money on the Shadow game and only played it once because it was so shallow. In the end, the only thing memorable about it, besides it being the first indie I've ever played in my life, was I still remember the developer's name, No! Which I thought was hilarious as a 10-year-old. And speaking of which, that developer still makes great games today, and their games have significantly improved in quality since the days of Pop. I wouldn't mind seeing a Switch port of Pop just so I can have it on a newer system, maybe add new features like achievements to make it more appetizing. But none of the newer games for me personally have stuck around in terms of being memorable, except for one game on the 3DS called Escape Vector, a little puzzle game I actually enjoyed for a bit until I found out the leaderboards were broken and they didn't want to fix them. But in the end, this whole talk about WiiWare being bad and stuff was, well, just about how my fears of WiiWare were warranted for me back in the day, and the whole low quality of the service overall. Even today, after buying tons of WiiWare games due to the store closing, there wasn't really anything I missed, I felt, outside of the Konami Rebirth series that I mentioned earlier. But with that discussion of Pop out of the way, unless I still think the name is weird all these years later, that'll do it for my retrospective / unscripted memories, though it's not really because it was unscripted. I had more unscripted bits than normal. But I also kind of felt it was needed because the context of the WiiWare era was that boring. I guess this video may be boring to some, but now you know how I felt when WiiWare basically destroyed the Wii Shop Channel. And that's not even going the whole debacle about the stupid file size limit that prevented games like Super Meat Boy, all sorts of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 digital games from reaching the Wii, and it was just an awful source for developers as well as the actual consumer, because outside the crappy shovelware that was easy to pump out, good, hard-working developers couldn't get their actual good games out because the file size limit prevented them from doing so, and thus lots of compromises had to be made, and it was just a mess. Don't even get me started on DSiWare, which I think is even worse, and I'll discuss that at another time. But yeah, the WiiWare was a pretty bad service in my opinion. It was the start of Nintendo's online distribution system, and when Club Nintendo was ending, I did finally get to check out the other first-party offerings, which were stuff like ArtStyle and ArtStyle. Yeah, they made some knockoff weird games like Bonsai Cutter, some hair cutter game, Snowball Park, which is this penguin game. Nintendo made lots of shit on the WiiWare as well, which is kinda sad because they could have made the best games in the service, and it's not like they had to make everything retail like they did back in the day. The 3DS showed us with games like Freaky Forms, Dylan's Roaring Western, and Pushmo that small bite-sized games are great for the digital marketplace, and if we had some of those on the WiiWare outside of ArtStyle, and in my opinion the ArtStyle games were better on the DSiWare of all things, we would have had the WiiWare be a lot better, and I think people wouldn't hate it as much. But nowadays it's seen as a goldmine of obscure gems that are lost into the ether because the Wii Shop Channel closed down at the end of March. Well, for buying stuff, you can still look at it until next year, but that's kinda boring. The Virtual Console is the biggest catalyst and the victim of this all, because until Switch doesn't even have a Virtual Console, it won't seem to get one, and it's just depressing that all these obscure gems are gone forever. I bought some of those as well, and I think I am gonna enjoy some of the ones I got like Super Fantasy Zone. But yeah, the Wii U was just a dark time for Nintendo in my opinion. As a kid that had not much access to the internet until 2009, seeing all these new, potentially good first-party Virtual Console games come out and then slow down to a crawl when they ran out of them, and replaced with WiiWare just made me not turn on my Wii, and I focus on GameCube games I missed out on due to my childhood. And so that's where what the Wii became for me in the latter part of the Wii's life cycle, a GameCube machine. Which is kind of funny now that I think about it. But with that out of the way, we can at least move on to the final episode of Season 2 of Eternal Memories. And I do apologize that this has been a rough episode and a bit hard to get out, but I kind of was struggling to think of ways to make this entertaining, so I just decided to be honest, make this kind of like an unscripted memories, but focus more on the editing aspects, and just reminisce about WiiWare, how bad it was, and maybe looting is not bad. Tell me how you thought it was in the comments. Maybe low region like Japan or Europe got better games than we did. I know Pokemon Rumble was a great game, and the third Mystery Dungeon games were available on WiiWare too in Japan only, but outside that, there was nothing I really cared for outside the launch period. So yeah, let me know what you thought of WiiWare in the comments, and next time, we'll look at Pokemon Snap, the game that everyone wants a sequel to, Except for me. And others, I assume, as well. But until then, bye!